only on Adventist World Radio, powered by SID Media.
+2773 470 3520. That's the number to use as we get into the conversation. I'm not alone. I'm joined by Aldamnilo Busani. We today are going to be speaking about digital IDs and I think it's going to be a wholesome conversation as we get into this one. All right. Aldamnilo, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Are you well?
I'm very well, Millicent. Good morning to you and your listeners.
Thank you so much. And I was doing a story time, sharing just an experience that I had about how I ended up with a rewards card on my phone, and it happened so easily. And then after that, it had me thinking, "Whoa, uh, mark of the beast," and it's like the digital ID system. What's going on, And it just had me thinking how easy it is to get into the system, and of course many are going to befall this idea without even realizing that, hey, deception has caught me off guard. Let's talk about it. First world countries always seem to be the place where these things start. People are protesting in the UK, for instance. Is it really a threat to democracy? Maybe let's start there from a political viewpoint. Is this a threat to democracy, digital IDs and Don?
I think, like all things, you get different camps some people are for that, and where some people are not for that. But maybe what I just wanted to say was that when we talk about these digital IDs, maybe some people are not aware or do not understand what it is. But basically, it's more of like your virtual identity card, which can be stored on your phone electronically or any other electronic device, you know. So just to get back to your question, it's always you have people like who are for and those who are against. Some people believe that these advanced, security around identity theft. And if you follow up on stories of identity theft, I mean, there are heart-wrenching stories around that issue. And if there is a way to actually curb, that problem, I mean, people would welcome it. But also, then on the other side, people also, talk about the intrusiveness of these kind of devices or these kind of identity means. Because the access is just beyond your photo, your picture, your name and all that. It can also now extend to other aspects, you being linked to other services, and it makes you vulnerable, to be found, to be easily found in all those other aspects. So yeah, we always have those camps.
Do you think then someone who is already a criminal would necessarily get into the system, or are they the ones who are going to flee from it, and it's the rest of the population that will be like, "Oh, I don't have a choice, I have to do this otherwise"?
Yeah, look, with one of the challenges that are there, I think I've been reading of lately how hackers got into system, into databases of certain organizations, and they would actually hold those organizations to ransom and say, okay, pay us so much so that we can not cause harm. So it's really a changing environment. It's an area where, if we are to go digital, which is already what is happening, those are some of the challenges that the government or those who are responsible, like the Home Affairs, would have to deal with to make sure that this is actually safe.
Yeah, 100%. Also, if people are corrupt, like, corrupt people will always be corrupt no matter what the system is. They always have a way around it. So I don't know to what extent it will curb, but that's maybe something to look into. I want to go into a bit of a spiritual question then. When you look at these IDs and the fact that the whole world is fast becoming a cashless society,
Mm.
do you think there's a connection between these developments? So, not saying that this is the mark of the beast, but the developments themselves. Is there a connection between them and the mark of the beast in any way, or are we kind of clutching at straws here?
Yeah, I think it's very important for us to actually clarify
Yes.
the difference between the mark of the beast and these, virtual identity um, systems that are being implemented. I mean, I've read a lot on the internet where people are preaching that a chip will be placed on your hand
Yes.
or on your forehead, and
Yes.
this is the mark of the beast. That is not correct. That is not the proper interpretation of the Bible. We know that the mark of the beast speaks to Sunday sacredness. I mean, in our previous programs, we have spoke about that a lot. It speaks to Sunday sacredness, and but the issue at heart is the issue of the image of the beast, which is basically the union of church and state. And
Mhm.
with these kind of systems, I can say that the infrastructure is being rolled out, which makes the implementation of any legislation which may come out of a church and state union much easier to do.
Mm.
So if because I mean, if you look at these digital IDs, it's linked to your government services, the voting, your municipal bills. It's linked to your banking system, you know. So it means that if somebody wants to shut you down, they can easily do that. So I would say that the infrastructure is already in place for a church and state kind of government to implement whatever they need to implement. And we know for sure that when it comes to the issue of no buying or selling, that is already a restrictive or an exclusion to participating economically.
Mhm.
Actually, when I read the issue of the UK, one of the issues that they are bringing up, besides the issue of saying that it curbs fraud, it clearly says there that if you don't have a digital ID, you will not be able to work. You
Mm.
understand? So already that restriction is already there, you know, and it can be open to other abuses, because I think when we look at the issue of the mark of the beast and its implementation, it's a issue of persecution. It's an issue of persecution, which is about excluding others
Mm.
from participating economically because of their belief.
So for someone who maybe is a student of the Word of God, but not sure about these developments and how they need to behave accordingly, um, is it that even though there's this new system, digital IDs are being pushed, and if you don't get it, you will not be able to work, and there are all those, I don't know if you call them threats, but those are kind of, the requirements that governments are going to be putting out. Does that statement, ya gore, you will not be able to work, for example, make it evil? Are people supposed to flee from it? Or there's nothing wrong with it until such a time that it then becomes a tool to be used for persecution that is religious?
Definitely, there's nothing wrong with it in the
Mm,
context of a government. I mean, let's look at the South African scenario. Home Affairs is actually implementing a smart ID rollout, which is the foundation to the next level, which will be the digital ID.
mhm,
Um, if you look at their reasons and their motivation, I mean, South Africa is one of the countries that suffers a lot from identity theft, border management issues. So these are real issues that affect the citizens, and it's a noble thing. So having it is not having the mark of the beast, but what it simply means is that there are liberties that are at stake. Definitely, I think that's what the protests are about. When they talk about the how intrusive it is, because it becomes easier for them to really. Um, I mean, you can vote, you can do a whole lot of things when you have this, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I hear you. And, some of the commentaries that I have also seen, and we can also attest to it, when COVID happened, how many people we all complied, maybe at different levels, but
Yeah,
we all complied. Maybe you never got the vaccine, but you did restrict yourself to the house when they said don't go out. You did not
yeah,
go to the malls and shopping whenever you wanted to. So you did actually change your behavior to suit the narrative based on what you were hearing from the government.
mhm,
So that was still compliance, whether or not you're vaccinated. We
mhm,
know that there are people who lost their jobs, for instance, during that time, and
yeah,
those who tried to rebel against the system. People were jailed, like there was that kind of chaos that happened. That's the one. Then you go into the blue laws, something that I understand were laws that took place in America in the 1800s. That's a very long time ago. And during
yes,
that time, we understand from the spirit of prophecy that things were set already for what Adventists you've probably heard calling the National Sunday Law. People were
mhm,
ready for already a system like that way before the technology that we have today. So
yeah,
if I mean, the only reason we attribute to it not happening at the time is okay, God's mercy, I guess, was just saying these people are not ready. But
yeah,
if it could have been done close to 200 years ago, what more now?
mm, mm,
Given the
mm,
technology that we also have. Also, we've had this technology for years. AI is not something that came up in 2020. AI has been around since the early 1900s. The
mm,
person who created AI speaks about it openly to say, I was not aware that it would be this leviathan that it is today.
mhm,
And
yeah,
now we don't really have control of it. We thought we had, but clearly it's now out of our hands. So I guess
mm,
systems have been in place for many
yeah, well,
decades, if not
yeah,
hundreds of years, you know?
mm,
And I don't know, maybe with that said, should Africa be concerned? And maybe your final thoughts just to motivate people and for people to go through today feeling like, how do I maybe work on my life, fix things with God? Not that we should be doing things because we are scared of consequences, but of course, it's good to have a genuine relationship with God. But also just taking notes of everything that the developments that are happening in our world, and being cognizant of them so that we don't get deceived, but also not being legalistic
mhm,
and preempting things that have not even been mentioned yet. We need
yeah,
to be wise like serpents as well, right?
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if you look at it, I was actually in preparation for our conversation. I just checked. You are asking a question: should Africa be concerned? I mean, we are already putting the infrastructure for digital IDs in a number of African countries.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not so far behind in that direction. What is happening in Europe is definitely going to happen in Africa, or is already happening in Africa. South Africa, with the smart ID, they're actually working on. There's a term they use.
Oh, it looks like Budimlilo has been frozen by the system. I have no idea what that term is, and I really am interested in hearing what the term is. We were having a conversation this morning about digital IDs and trying to just figure where that fits in with regards to the prophecy. We know that we speak about Revelation chapter 14, chapter 13, the image of the beast, the mark of the beast as well. And one of the things that we want to, what's the right word, correct, or just be mindful of is that when these systems happen, it's not just that every single thing, every single development, every single new technology that arises becomes the mark of the beast. It's literally got nothing to do with an actual device. It's something that is more of our worship of God, and that then being controlled in some ways. I think Budimlilo is back. Budimlilo Askis, we had lost you for a moment. You were giving us something that I'm not aware of. The South African government has, what word is that you were saying?
Yes, I'm saying my point is the most African countries are already working towards a
Mm,
digital ID. I think the
okay.
implementation plan is also around 28, 2028, 2029, 2030 there. And that
Okay.
seems to be like for most countries, you know. Yeah, so we are already on that path. And then I want to come back to the point to say that it is not really about running away. When we talk about being prepared for the mark of the beast, it's not
Mm,
about running away and hiding in in some rocks or cave somewhere.
yeah.
But like you are saying, it's about preparing yourself spiritually, having a relationship with God. And
Mm,
this is where indeed also the message of country living comes into play. Because
mm,
what's going to happen is that there is going to be an isolation. If you cannot work, if you cannot participate economically, it means that you are not going to be able to sustain yourself or your family. So that is why we've got a country living message which says, out of the cities,
mm,
this is the time to live to get out of the cities, go off grid, begin to learn to produce food for yourself and for your own family. That way, you are not going to be caught up in the isolation because of your belief system. So we need to take those messages of country living seriously. We need to take the messages of health seriously, because
mm.
if you are isolated, it means also you don't have access to other services like health and all that. So you
Yeah.
need to be healthy as much as you can be, so that if you fall sick, you are just dealing with minor issues that you can deal with without having to necessarily visit a medical center or care. You know.
Yes, definitely. And Budimlilo, I really hope maybe in our next conversation you can also share, because you're an advocate for these kinds of issues that we are talking about. I think people, we get information, we don't want to be obese from information overload, but people do need
Mhm.
to know then the how to, of all of this. Some of us, I think I've mentioned this before, you grew up in the city, you just don't know where do you start, how do you navigate the system, these challenges that are coming up. So whether it's, like you speaking about being a health activist, how do you get into being healthy and knowing how to then deal with sicknesses, the country living message, how do you do it? People will say,
Yes.
we don't have farms. Do you need a farm? I think those are things that we need to talk about to try and not just conscientize people, but give them a
Mhm.
hope that is reasonable for them to do it in their means. They can actually activate it. I think that is something, we need to work towards a project like that, so that
Mhm.
people can have the know-how and then start taking the steps without it seeming impossible. People don't have money to
Mhm.
just go buy farms. People
True.
just don't have
True.
that kind of money. So I think that's something that we can definitely be work on in the next couple of months. Next year, these conversations are long going, and there are many people who are in this field like Adam Lilo, and I think they are willing to come on board and share. This is knowledge that we get free of charge, which is such a blessing. So thank you so much, Adam Lilo, for this morning, for sharing and giving us a message of hope and helping us feel like, okay, it's okay. Be aware. But yeah, do take note and understand the issues are more than definitely by far technology. It's about the hearts at the end of the day. But for today, thank you so much, Ntate. I look forward to our
Thank
next
you.
conversation together.
Thank you for having me.
Amen and amen.
Adventist World Radio SID Media. We are not general practitioners. We are specialists.